Hoy there, it's Skyward Shield. Welcome to Week 1. We are opening the NFL season starting now. I am joined by Bill. Say hello, Bill.
Hey, what is up, everyone?
Alright, the preseason is done. We're past August, and a lot has happened, especially for me personally. I'm glad it's over, but who knows? Mother Nature is a bitch, and to those who, I mentioned it in the descriptions of my Paper Mario videos that I put up recently. Yeah, I was right on. I was at ground zero where Hurricane Harvey made landfall, but I'm fine. House took damage, but I don't know if FEMA will cover for it, but we'll be fine. I'll be fine. But yeah, thanks to everybody on Twitter who was concerned. I appreciate that. But
Oh
anyway,
yeah.
we're gonna get to talk about a little bit of Harvey, surprisingly, for this because it actually impacted a lot more than just me. I only took the wind, but we'll talk about that later. For now,
Oh yeah.
Bill, we had other things to talk about, major things. In fact, I could make 2 videos talking about everything that happened in the NFL, but we can't. We don't have that time. Let's go into the first thing. Actually, this was, I believe, the Week 3 preseason game for Julian Edelman, who tore his ACL and is now out for the season for the Patriots.
Yep.
Bill, the Edelman Brady connection is actually it's much more underrated when you compare it to say Gronk and Brady. But these two were a great tandem, and if you don't believe me, just look at that catch in Super Bowl 51. That catch, the most important catch in possibly in Super Bowl history, right there.
I mean, there's the Tyree catch and a few other catches, but it's one of those up there.
Hey, you
But
get that in
yeah,
triple coverage where they're all over your body and you still make that catch. You don't let it touch the floor, most importantly.
exactly. Well, and Edelman is the engine that keeps the chains moving on that offense, and it'll be very interesting because they were moving the football all over the Lions defense, and that's who they were playing. They were playing the Lions in Detroit on artificial turf, and it always seems like someone blows out one of their ankles or their knees on the artificial turf. I've seen it many a times, since I've watched teams. The Lions have played in a dome for as long as I've been alive. So, watching them and watching people blow out their knees pretty regularly. And Julian Edelman seems to be another one on a long list of those players, which is a bad thing for the Patriots offense, but it's time for other people to step up. Danny Amendola and obviously Chris Hogan.
Chris
Chris
Hogan, I
Hogan
think, is
could
going to
have
be
a
fine. I think Chris Hogan will be the perfect tool for what's his name? For
Tom Brady.
no, not Tom Brady. I can't forget Tom Brady. Jimmy Garoppolo whenever
Oh,
he gets in the lineup in about 20 years.
yeah, in 5 years after Tom Brady wins 3 more titles. Oh
Garoppolo will
man,
take the helm.
yeah.
But
And then how can you ever follow him up?
yeah. Well, good luck with that. But anyway, so here's something I noticed. When you look at some of the stats when Edelman's not on the field, a lot of things go down. The yards per game goes down, and I want to and on that year where everybody on the Patriots got injured, and that's a factor that needs to be considered. They actually lost more games. Because when Edelman was there, they were red hot at 9-0. After that, they finished the season 3-4 with the remaining games. It was bad without Edelman, especially. I mean, now you could say we have Gronk, you have Dwayne Allen, but those guys are injury prone. They're the most talented players on the roster, but they're injury prone. Brandon Cooks has to prove himself, which I know he's good. I know he's good. He's a very fast route runner, but you have to see how he works with the Patriots because I don't think you saw him much in the preseason. So it's really hard to make a judgment call from the preseason, which even then I try not to go off of that off of especially more veteran players in preseason games. I can
Right.
understand with rookies because you don't know anything about them. But these
Right.
guys, you got
Especially.
in preseason games, veterans are not trying their hardest. The only ones trying are those who are trying to fight for a roster spot.
Right.
But other
Exactly.
than that, the running game looks pretty good. Burkhead is now the new Dion Lewis, and Dion Lewis is still there, and he is actually coming back into form. Unlike last year, he was still coming off that ACL injury. He looks just fine. It's just everybody else needs to step up, like you said, Bill. I'm hoping Chris Hogan continues to be that good, big, deep ball threat, but we'll
Right.
see.
I think what you'll see is that they're going to probably flex both Chris Hogan and Danny Amendola into that flex position, that the third receiver, slot receiver position, and you're going to sort of see both of them. What I think is going to happen is obviously, they have a wealth of options. It's going to be game plan specific, and if Chris Hogan can really tear you up in the middle, they're going to put him there. If Danny Amendola's tear you up in the middle, they're going to do that, and you always have deep threat in Brandon Cooks, and you can put two wide receivers out there, and who are you going to cover? And then you still have Gronk. I mean, it's mind blowing the amount of options Tom Brady has, and the scary thing is that Brady is seeing the field at a very high level. He's barely getting hit, and I mean, it might they might feel a little bit of a pinch because Edelman's not there. But unlike years ago when they didn't have anything else besides Edelman and Gronk, they have a lot of weapons now besides Edelman.
Yep. A surprising note before we move on. In the final preseason game, Jacoby Brissett, or as I like to call him, Jake Brisket, put up 5 touchdowns against the Giants. Mind you, they still lost, but it was a very good game. In fact, they actually traded him to the Colts, who desperately needed somebody to play for them while Luck is gone, because he's still out he's going to be out for the season opener. Who knows when he'll come back? Because a shoulder injury is for a quarterback is more concerning than other positions.
Right.
But anyway, let's move on from the throne of ease. Let's talk about Detroit, because Detroit was in the news. A big splash, you could say, but I think in a couple years this will be irrelevant. Not for a bad reason, because people are like, does Stafford deserve this money? I think the hot takes of all this stuff is insane, but let's get into it. So, Matt Stafford got a contract extension for 5 years for what was it, 135 million? Did I get that number right,
Yeah,
Bill?
it's 135.
All right, I think he's got over six. I think over 60 million guaranteed
Yep.
at signing. 90 million guaranteed overall. But regardless, that's a huge contract. It overshadowed Andrew Luck and Derek Carr's. However,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a couple years, and I guarantee you, Aaron Rodgers is gonna be the first $200 million quarterback.
I mean, I can see Aaron Rodgers getting a lot of money,
I
but
think he can now, especially with how these quarterbacks are getting paid.
oh yeah, definitely. Quarterback is, if you don't have one, you definitely need one. The the funny thing about it is the Detroit media and the Detroit fans and a lot of the people out there are like, did he really deserve that?
I think
And
everybody is. I think it's just a national question, especially by the media.
and the and I'll put it to you this way. Yes, he is worth it, and here's some of the reasons why. Career high in completion percentage last year. Career high in touchdown to interception ratio. He made better decisions with the football. He's entering his prime. He is one of like 6 quarterbacks with a 5,000-yard season. He's had a few seasons of 40 touchdown passes, and he's been close to 5,000 yards pretty consistently as a quarterback. You know who else gets 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns quite often? Drew Brees. Did anyone question the money he got? No. Now, why would you question the money that a 28-year-old quarterback is getting that has thrown for 5,000 yards in his career, has thrown for 40 touchdowns in his career, has the most weapons around him, and has an actual legit running game in Amir Abdullah. Actually, Amir's looking amazing. You surrounded him with a plethora of wide receiving talent that is not named Kelvin Johnson. He is worth every penny, and he will continue to be worth every penny because that contract will be small compared to what I think could happen with a Bob Quinn led team. This is a Super Bowl bound team in the next 5 years. It's only a matter of time. They're building this team from the inside out, and you keep the franchise quarterback that can throw the football and has a once in a generation arm in your organization.
Yep. I was going to say though, there is actually somebody, I'm not even kidding, trying to say that Colin Kaepernick is a better quarterback than Stafford. Now,
That
if you told me
that's
this back when he didn't win the Super Bowl, you would have had a case. Because the easy argument you could have made is that he made it to the Super Bowl, Stafford didn't. But the way they are now, Kaepernick can't even get on a roster. Now, to be fair, it is because he's being blackballed by the NFL. To some extent, that's his own, and we already talked about that. But the fact that there are people trying to come up with other schmucks that are better than Stafford is laughable.
there was a local TV personality. He doesn't work in local TV anymore, but last year he was on record on TV in Detroit saying that the Detroit Lions should sign RG3 and start him. Now, now RG3, Colin Kaepernick. Who else are you gonna tell me that's better than Stafford? Stafford's only at a high level, and then you have all these other guys. Colin Kaepernick is. You know who made Colin Kaepernick great? Jim Harbaugh. He's not there anymore. You know who made RG3 great? Kyle Shanahan. And they're all gone. The only ones that great offensive coordinators made those players. Matthew Stafford has had, freaking, I don't even remember his name. The head coach of the Lions, I forget his damn name. The, yeah, Schwartz. He had Jim Schwartz as a head coach. Are you kidding me? And he still threw for 5,000 yards.
Yeah. What else was I gonna mention? I think that was really it. I think people are overblowing this, and another contract we're gonna talk about, which people think is also insane and possibly undeserving. It's skeptical, but I'd say in a few couple of years, this is gonna be insignificant compared to what other people are gonna get paid for.
Oh yeah. Oh
Like I
yeah.
said, I
Definitely.
will not be surprised if Aaron Rodgers gets to be the first $200 million player because at this rate, soon NFL players are going to be paid like pitchers.
I mean, quarterbacks are not any other position. Any other position is meaningless on the
That
NFL
will take over 10
roster.
years before you start seeing that at least.
I mean, it's at this point that if you don't, you have to pay your quarterback because
Remember
if
when
you
J.J.
let your
Watt was
quarterback,
being called overpaid?
and that's crazy itself because you see,
And now we
it,
got dwarfed by Von Miller and stuff. And
I
Ndamukong
mean,
Suh.
I just feel like if you have a best player at their position, you should pay them well. Because if you leave if your quarterback's one of the top 10 best, why the heck aren't you going to pay him like one of the top 10 best? Why are you going to allow him to walk to any other team? Any other teams don't want your quarterback. Any other team, the Cleveland Browns would kill to have Matthew Stafford right now.
I think they'd kill to have at least half of what Stafford is.
Exactly. I mean, they had RG3 last year, and he was out for
I
the
mean, to
entire
be
year.
fair, at least Kaiser looks promising so far.
Yeah, yeah, he
They may
does.
not need him, which I'm gonna feel really bad if Kaiser is actually the good one that comes out of this year's quarterback class, because my speech teacher who's a Chicago native, he told me he really wanted the Browns to not get a quarterback the first round and get save it for round two and go for a Deshaun Kaiser. But they didn't. They got bamboozled by the 49ers, and that's why the Bears are going to be one of the worst teams this year. But to be
Right.
fair, the 49ers fooled them, and they have a chance to actually, I'd say, reach that level they were in the past. But at least they could make a comparable roster, a better one. Build a better roster, and then when you get a low pick, or the Bears get bad or do bad, you get their picks, and you can draft a quarterback that way.
I mean, the
I'd rather
Bears are
build
going to be
a
bad for.
roster and then get a quarterback than get a quarterback and hope he survives until I can have a viable roster.
You know, the Bears remind me of where the Lions were 10 years ago. That's I that's the
They're
truth
probably
of
not
it.
going to be the one that gets the first pick. I think you and I know who that is going to be this year, without
Oh
a
yeah.
doubt. It is easy.
That's the Jets,
That's
Jets.
the
Very easy.
JETE Jets, according to one of their former players. But
Oh.
it's like that's surprising that that everyone's confident the Browns will not be the first pick in the draft or the top three.
I'm I
I
am
got him
very
5 wins,
confident.
Bill. That's gonna be good enough to get him a top 10 minimum.
Well, at least they're moving on up, right? They're not they're not in the basement
I will
anymore.
be rooting for Miles Garrett, but that's mostly because he was an Aggie, and I do love me
But
some Texas players, except Texas Tech, most of the time.
right.
I just
But
don't like Tech, but anyway, I think we're ready to move on. We're going to talk about the storm. Yes, Hurricane Harvey, not just affected me like I said. I got all the wind damage. There was some rain, but that's all. We got just the gusts. Now, where I was at, we got gusts over. I want to say it went up to at least average hurricane winds. Not to get all scientific, but I think you know that despite when they say um, hurricane force winds, that doesn't necessarily portray to the whole storm. It's a certain
right.
like it's a small coned area. I think usually
Yeah.
on average it's about 25 miles, a 25-mile radius from the eye.
Yeah, where the exact
There are some
strongest
exceptions
winds
though,
are.
like Superstorm Sandy a couple years ago. It was a different beast because the radius was a lot bigger, and that's why it felt more devastating. Even if it was
Yeah.
technically a weaker storm, it was what a category 2 to 3. It
Yeah.
felt devastating enough because it was bigger and could affect more places than a hurricane normally
I mean,
does.
to be fair, I got hit by that thing, and I live 3 states inland. So
Yeah, you see, that's what made it worse. Now, to be fair, Bill, Texas is a lot bigger than Michigan.
yeah, I mean,
We eat
but
we eat most of the states.
I'm not in terms of proximity to the coast and still getting hit by something. You know, I live like a 10-hour drive from the coast, so.
Yep. Harvey was a tale of two storms. The first phase
But
was the wind that destroyed Port Aransas and Rockport, which are not that
yep.
far from me. And I still see the devastation. It's not. It's going to be a long time before that's fixed. But the other thing
Oh
was the rain. The rain drowned Houston. Over
yeah. Yep.
50 inches. People thought it would go up to 35, which was like a yard. That's a lot already. No, this was at least a yard and a half of rain. That is crazy. There
Yep.
were people seeing. They were people able to catch normal fish in the water inside their homes. Some people saw sharks going along the highway.
Well, that one that's actually been proved to be a fake photo, but
There
the
was a video of a
crazy
guy with a shark passing him by, so there might have been
the
one that was real, at least. Mind you,
the
that was towards the coast, at least.
yeah, the craziest the stat about the rain and what what JJ Watt's doing about it is that it rained so much and the weight of the water the the Earth's crust actually depressed 2 centimeters. The weight
That's
of
horrible.
the weight of the water legitimately depressed the Earth's crust 2 centimeters. Houston sank 2 centimeters underwater.
Yeah,
Just the weight of water.
that's heavy. Now remember, this is even worse than what happened in 2015. The storms around the Austin area, which people like a lot, which I think 36 people died because the rain was created rapids, and in fact, the current mayor of my city of Corpus, his children, a couple of his children died from that rain. So he said on record that he can understand what Houstonians are going through since he lost family to severe rain. But the thing with Harvey is that it stuck around, and some players were actually trapped in Houston. They could not go. And first, there are a lot of things people were speculating. Even myself, I talked about it with you, Bill, and I was tweeting about it. Is Houston going to be able to host their final preseason game, which they didn't? It was moved to Dallas, but then it got canceled so that the Texans players can go home, see their families and their friends, as well as help people.
Right.
And then there was also speculation about if the week one, the home opener against the Jaguars, is going to happen. The suggestions were maybe move it to San Antonio, play in the Alamo Dome, because that's used by by UTSA, or you can, because this was fortunate enough to be against Jacksonville, a division rival, you could switch the games, meaning the Texans would be on the road for the first 3 weeks, but later on the Jaguars would be on the road, but for the last few weeks in their schedule. But the Jaguars owner said he was fine to do it if the NFL told him to do so. But
Right.
but now it looks like according to Bill O'Brien and Rick Smith, it's going to be played here, because now if you haven't kept up with other sports, at least the Astros were able to return, and that's not and the Astros Minute Maid Park is not that far from NRG Stadium.
Right.
Now anyway,
And
let's what are you gonna say, Bill?
no, I was just put an exclamation point on that, and I follow Storm Chaser, and he was tweeting out stuff outside of NRG Stadium with floodwaters shooting out of the manholes. So the fact that that water's down is a good sign for the game.
It's going to be a wonder if people can actually get to the game, but if the buses that went from Dallas all the way to Houston were able to, there should be a way. The NFL is going to have to make preparations to tell people this is the way you go. The other methods might not be safe, which is
Right.
going to be a lot of traffic, but still. And sports can bring hope to people, because if you don't believe me, the series against the Mets, the sweep, was uplifting to a lot of people who went to go see, and just to everybody in general. Now I feel like the Astros are motivated to play. They can just keep it going, but at least for the Texans, it will be especially nice because that home opener, as one of the writers from there, John McClain, put, it's going to be the loudest he's ever heard since when the Saints returned to the Superdome against Atlanta on Monday Night Football. That game was one of the loudest you'll ever hear, and I will not be surprised if that happens here. I feel like the Jaguars are jumping into a fire, not caused by them, but
Yep.
it's going to be loud and crazy. But now let's talk about Watt himself, with all the storm stuff already under the bridge. Watt, on the day I think it started on a Friday or Saturday, I don't remember. Anyway, he posted on Twitter that he was going to donate $200,000, and he wanted to see if his followers could follow suit. That was already matched within a couple hours, and by the next day, he passed 1 million, and then he made the goal bigger. Let's try to get to 2 million, reach 2 million. In less than a week, he went over 10 million. And now,
Yep.
as far as I've heard, it's at 18 million. I don't know if it reached 19 or not, but in the time of this recording, he already reached 18 million. That's way more money than he's making for his base salary this year.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Yep. I mean, and one of the big donations of that was Ellen DeGeneres, the Ellen DeGeneres show, donated $1 million to J.J. Watt's
There were a
relief
lot of other big
effort.
donations too. The Tennessee Titans donated to his cause. They donated $1 million as well. Chris Paul, CP3, who was traded to the Rockets, donated
Yep.
50,000. Um, Bob McNair, I mean, this was his own thing, but the Texans donated $1 million. The Astros and the Rockets donated $4 million, but apparently the Rockets matched up to other offers and went to 10 million.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. I did see that.
Aldridge donated 100,000 from the Spurs. James Harden, I want to say, donated $1 million not too long ago. The list goes on and on. A lot of other NFL teams also donated. Like I said, the Titans did it because remember they used to be the Houston Oilers in the past. But
Right.
it goes on and on. But obviously some donated to different causes. But J.J. Watt raised 18 million. Now I have to say, if he doesn't get Walter Payton Man of the Year award, I will be frustrated. I know Watt won't care because to him, I would expect him to say that I'm just glad the people of Houston acknowledge that. That's all he would probably want. That it helped Houston. That's all that matters. But I swear to God, if you give it, I understand you want to give the Walter Payton Man of the Year award to some probably an obscure player who is not what's the word I'm looking for? A face of the franchise
Yeah.
type of
Yeah.
talent. But
He's not well known.
yeah, but I don't care. I really don't think anybody else could match what he did, especially considering he reached 10 million in 6 days. That
Right.
is an incredible feat. And
And
what?
I was just gonna say, and he's doing it the right way. I like that he's in charge of where that's going because he knows the distribution. He can make sure that the money's going to
The
where
crazy
it
thing is,
should be going.
the other day he actually on Sunday, last Sunday, he and a few other Texans, I think Shane Leckler was there, Derek Newton, a couple others I can't remember. They on Sunday they had they were giving boxes of supplies to people, and it was a warehouse full of supplies. He put a picture of it on Twitter if you guys want to look at it. And that wasn't from anything he put in. In fact, he is still gathering the donation money. He hasn't used it yet. He's going to use it when time's
Exactly.
up. I don't know when that deadline is, but after that, that's going to be a lot of money.
Yep. And the best thing is he's going to be able to put it where it needs to go. And I'd rather have him, the professional athlete, know where the money's going rather than trust an other organization. Not saying that donating to the Red Cross or anything's a bad thing. I just like to know where the money's going. Not like, oh, well, you donated 19 million. Oh, $1 million is going in the CEO's pocket just because he needs his payday. You know, I'm glad that it's going to a place that all the money is going to be used on the people that need it most. And that's my major thing.
I've already said give JJ the Walter Payton Man of the Year award
Yep,
for this year,
I
and
agree.
he's got a lot of awards he can run for this year. Bill, he's got that one. He's got Defensive Player of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year, possibly overall MVP of the year. It's a lot he could go for. It's
I mean,
insane, but of course, but Houston, the Texans are. Here's the thing: the Texans. You could also make a case for the Astros and the Rockets this year can possibly be sentimental favorites, but especially the Texans since their season is about to start and what J.J. Watt has done to get the attention of the media in a positive light, to get attention of the country in a positive light, in some cases part of the whole world in a positive light.
yeah.
The
I
Texans
mean,
right now, even though I'll tell you right now, first and foremost, I do not think they're going to make it to the Super Bowl. I really want them to, even though I don't think they will this year. Normally, of course, you want to say you want your team to go, no matter how flawed they are, if you really love them.
right.
But
Oh yeah.
this year, I really want them to because of what happened. Everything feels very similar, eerily similar to what happened with the Saints and Hurricane Katrina. And when the Saints came back home, they were cheered and adored, and they were the idol of everyone's eye. They were the sentimental favorites that year, and they won. They won it for the city. That was a basically one of the perfect football stories that you could actually make a movie out of, and it would be very good.
Right.
That's
I
how I
would
feel
agree.
about this one. Of course, there were some other funny, other things. It's funny considering these athletes who don't need us to donate money to them. They make a lot of money, but then you have other people who are supposedly good. You have the president saying, good luck to the people who are surviving against Harvey. But then, of course, Joel Osteen would not open his doors of his megachurch, which could house 16,000 people easily. He just offered a prayer. Until the media was starting to give him shit, then he finally opened the doors. You know, pretty much after the storm had blown over. Nice job.
I mean,
But yeah, we're not going to get political. I just wanted to point that out, that these athletes were doing a lot of good shit for the people of their town. And the ironic twist to everything, which I think everyone's forgetting, I feel like a dick for bringing it up, but when Watt was selected in the draft, people booed him. A lot of people booed him because he was considered the safe pick. They should have went for Alden Smith, which, as you and I know, Bill, it's a good thing they didn't get him since he seems to be getting a DUI or being charged with some crime every year.
right.
But no,
Um,
we got the right pick. We had the best player. A lot of people passed on him. The Jaguars passed on what for Blaine Gabbert. Yeah, that's see how that worked out for you guys.
yeah, I mean, what a tragic tale the Jaguars weave.
Yep, it's bad. But yes, I just wanted to point that like everybody booed him, but he still didn't give a shit. He still supports the people here. The people have just forgotten about that. But yeah,
Well,
I'm not trying to give anyone shit. I'm
I mean,
just
and the other issue was he was drafted in New York, and that's a New York
oh yeah,
crowd.
no, I mean
They
the
boo
Houston
everything.
crowd at the stadium at the draft party booed
Oh,
him.
okay.
You can look it up if you want,
Okay.
Bill. If you want to see it,
Yeah.
it was bad. A lot of people were saying it's a bad pick. Now, mind you, I was too young. I don't mean like I was like 10. I mean I was too young in terms of football knowledge to understand how the draft even worked.
Right.
But I thought it was I didn't know about it, but so I couldn't tell you like who's the good guy and who's the bad because this was just before I started getting into football again because I knew it when I was a kid, but I just watched the Cowboys because it was on. I didn't keep track of football like I do now. So yeah, there's
Right.
that. But anyway, to move on a bit from that, which has got to be one of the best stories out of this year, and hurricane season's not over yet because, as you know, Hurricane Irma is already a Category 5 and is likely going to hit Florida. Miami,
Yep.
Tampa Bay, and Jacksonville are all going to be affected by this thing. It's going to be bad. And the
Right.
worst thing is, those are all outdoor stadiums. They're not domes.
Right. I mean, that could be a story for next week.
Yeah,
Because
it's not going to
going to
hit
hit.
until after week 1, I believe.
Yeah, it's Saturday evening in the Keys.
Yep, that's bad. And that's going to be near Miami. So, in fact, I think the Tampa Bay game might get moved. The Battle of Miami, which I would hype those. I love to hype those interstate matchups. That one might get moved somewhere else.
It's very
It
possible.
it might have to move to
They-
Jacksonville, actually.
I mean, that whole state's gonna be needing to prepare.
Oh
So
yeah, Houston got wrecked and it just drowned. But this one's gonna be this one might be worse because it's already a Category 4. But anyway, enough hurricane talk because yeah, I don't want to think about hurricanes anymore. Uh, but anyway, the last thing on our list to go over is actually some contract extensions again. The Texans got busy. They signed Andre Howell to a $15 million extension, $5 million guaranteed. Then they signed C.J. Fedorowicz, which is surprising for some people, for $22 million with $10 million guaranteed. But and then DeAndre Hopkins, he's now the most paid wide receiver 81. I think he got 81 million. I want to say, or was it 90 million? I don't remember.
I thought it was closer to 90.
I want to say so as well. But anyway, I could just check here. I got it on Twitter. But anyway, so yeah, DeAndre Hopkins is the most paid quarterback or wide receiver. Excuse me. He's the most paid wide receiver with a 5-year extension, 81 million, and just about 50 million guaranteed. Which a lot of people questions like, why should he get that? He doesn't have the numbers. Now, the problem with that argument, the obvious one, if you know what's been the problem for the Texans for years, is that quarterback play. In the
Yep.
year that that he had those high numbers in 2015, that was because he had 4 different quarterbacks, and he still had 100-yard games with each of those 4 quarterbacks in that same season. Nobody else has ever done that. Even he brags about it, which I can't blame him.
Yeah, right. I mean, how many more quarterbacks do you need to catch a football from before you prove that you're a damn good wide receiver? You know? I mean, more power to him because that year, when you have 15 people throwing you the football, you have to learn how each one throws it, how hard they throw it, learn their thought process, and adjust your routes accordingly. I mean, more power to him. He deserves every dime he got
And
as
like I
well.
said, same thing with Stafford. This is going to especially apply to the wide receivers because some of the next ones up, like Brandon Cooks, might outshine even him. And there are going to be some that probably will. Like I won't be surprised if players like Mike Evans get monster contracts after this.
Brandon Cooks is going to get a monster contract.
I don't know
He's
if it'll
only
be
going to
with
be
New
20.
England. I feel like this is a temporary thing.
Yeah, I think it's temporary. He's only 24 years old. He's just entering his prime. That's the scary part.
Yep, to win a ring with the Patriots would be great for him. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he chooses to actually stay for a year, go on a by-year contract until he wins with the Patriots. If he really wants that ring. And then, I mean, if you get 1 year at a time, get a good pay for each year, and then when you leave, you get your rings. Like, okay, thanks, New England, I appreciate that. I'm going to get paid now.
I think the one issue with that is that you don't have that financial security. So if you get hurt,
That's true.
there goes your money.
That's true. I mean, you could always get like a 3-year contract. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
Whereas what DeAndre got, he's
got
financial
almost
security
50 million
if he
guaranteed.
gets hurt.
He's cashing in
Yep.
bank. Now the other thing is, if you think this is a lot, wait till Clowney gets his contract. He's the number 1 overall pick. I would expect him to get even more than what Hopkins is getting, like 95 million minimum.
I think the thing with his contract is that's going to mitigate that is the injury history.
Probably, if he stays healthy this whole year, that's going to help his case, especially if he's actually putting up
Now-
higher sack numbers. But we'll
Yep.
see.
That'll help his case. But if he gets hurt this year, teams are going to be like, okay, we'll give you this amount of money, but it's not going to be guaranteed. It's going to be tied to how often you're on the field.
Probably Houston might do the same thing, but who knows? We'll see. Anyway, do I think Hopkins deserves that money? Hell yeah, he does. The only reason he had lower stats last year is because he had Brock Osweiler throwing to him. I'm not saying in the short time Tom Savage was around that it would have been better, but I mean, to be fair, he was going up against what's his name, the corner for Jacksonville. I really wanted this guy to go to Dallas instead of Elliott, but anyway, yeah, he was going up against what, Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, now I remember. Thanks, Bill. So, yeah, and then you got AJ Boye. AJ Boye is probably going to be the number 1 corner for them. The Jags have a good defense, but like I said, I don't expect them to win. But that's for the picks. But yeah, the other contract that was worth mentioning there was CJ Fedorowicz, $22 million. The only reason I think he got that much money was because the tight ends seem to be very much a favorable target for this offensive scheme. Even with Savage, he was still throwing it a lot more to Fedorowicz and Ryan Griffin and Steven Anderson, a lot more than the wide receiving core. I don't know
Right.
if you noticed that, Bill.
Oh yeah. I noticed that Griffin and Fedorowicz always seem to get into the end zone quite a lot.
Much more than the wide receivers.
Oh yeah.
But honestly, here's the thing: if we had a viable, a proven quarterback this year, I don't know how anybody would say the Texans are not the favorite. But honestly, all depends on Savage and Watson, whoever is starting in the playoffs by then. But
Right.
we already discussed that, I believe. But yeah, I really like the Texans roster. You just need average quarterback play that doesn't make mistakes, and bam, you're a Super Bowl contender. And you gotta hope the front seven has to always dominate. But honestly, I think this is the best front seven you're ever going to see. The defensive tackle position is something to be concerned with, but that's it. But I will say there are some surprise cuts coming out of now that we're done with the contract situation stuff. There are some surprise cuts from all over the league. The Texans, actually, to start with them, they cut Brandon Weeden and Nick Novak. They chose the second-year guy from UCLA. I forget his name. Kai. He had a weird name. I think he was actually from Hawaii. I'm not sure.
Oh, no idea.
I'm gonna go get it. I'm gonna go get him. Let me go check.
I don't. I don't pay attention to kickers unless it's my own.
I know, but I just thought it was surprising that Nick Novak, who wasn't a bad kicker, actually lost a quarterback or not quarterback, lost the kicking battle. But
Right.
it's okay. Anyway, let me see. I just wanted to get it's Kaimi Fairbairn. Fairbairn? I don't know. I'm gonna say Fairbairn. I think that's how it was pronounced anyway. Anyway, so yeah, there was that. You had T.J. Ward getting cut from the Broncos, ripped the no-fly zone. That just took a bruising, and he went to the Bucs, which I am glad because the Bucs needed help on defense. And I told you, Bill, the Bucs are going to be my team to watch this year. They look like the most fun team in the NFC to me, especially when I call them the breakout team of the NFC.
Very possible.
I think the Detroit Lions can also be like that, considering nobody expects good out of them. But I wanted to go with the Bucs because who would have thought 3 years ago the Buccaneers would have been a possible breakout team with Jameis Winston?
Exactly. I mean, I always think of the Lions and, to a certain extent, other teams like the Browns that have Chicago Cubs syndrome. No one ever expects us to win until it actually happens.
Oh yeah, but I was gonna say, I'm trying to remember what else. Oh yes, that's right. Brock Osweiler. He got cut by the Browns. Guess where he's going? He's going to Denver. He went back to Denver to essentially be the water boy. And the funny thing was, he actually had a quote of himself saying that he would come back to Denver even if it was just to be the water boy. Which, congrats, you're pretty much going to be like that.
He took the money and he made the money in Houston, and then now he's been found out to be what he truly always was, a backup quarterback.
Yep, and now he's playing backup to the late round draft pick Trevor Siemian because Paxton Lynch has a shoulder injury and is going to be out for 5 weeks. I'm pretty sure Paxton Lynch is going to be on the IR boomerang for 6 weeks, so you don't expect to see him for a while.
Right.
It's going to be bad. Now, also, Bill, before we actually get to the main event, I wanted to bring up a couple of interesting stats that I noticed.
Oh man.
This one being the most important one. Let's get this one out of the way. Do you remember that? I want to say it was like somewhere between week 2 to week 4, and that I think it was 2 or 3 years ago. Back when the Patriots last played the Chiefs in the regular season over there, in Kansas City in Arrowhead. When the
Right.
Patriots got destroyed the way they did, everyone was saying the dynasty's over. Tom Brady's fallen off the cliff. He fell off due to age. It's all over for the Patriots dynasty. They're done. I will tell you now how they've been. This is from at NEPD underscore Loico. I don't know how you say that one.
Yeah,
From
like
Mike
Lloyd.
Loico. He put, since the last game versus the Chiefs, when they were declared dead and the dynasty over, the Patriots are 43-9 with 2 Super Bowl titles.
Yep.
You
I do
never
remember.
count out the greatest players until they say it's over.
Exactly. Same with Peyton Manning, Tom Brady. Like, I remember watching the press conference after that game, and people were asking about him pulling Tom Brady in that game, and they were like, "Do you still have confidence in Tom Brady?" And Bill Belichick just rolled his eyes and he said, "Yes, he's our quarterback."
And
And
the other
now
thing,
look at
on to Cincinnati. We're on to Cincinnati. And
yep,
and then the rest was history. They won the Super Bowl that year, and what is considered to me the best Super Bowl ever, in Super Bowl 49 against the Seahawks. And then you
Yep.
had what I think is the best Super Bowl for a Patriots fan, Super Bowl 51 against the Falcons, where they blew a 25-point lead. You never forget.
Yeah.
You need to always remind and remember, Bill. People like to say that that was the biggest that was a first for the Falcons. No, they've always choked on leads. Remember that year when I think the Vikings went to the Super Bowl this year where they lost. But the reason why they got there was because the Falcons blew a lead when they had 27 points and they blew it in overtime.
Well, the other issue is, and the Vikings haven't been to the Super Bowl in a long time, but I think the Falcons one year was the year before they played Minnesota and went to the Super Bowl. Who was that team? I don't remember the team that they played, but they blew that lead. Yes, they were good that year too. But the issue with the Falcons is they just never ran the football in that Super Bowl.
They didn't
If they
run it
ran
at the
that
end.
football,
They just needed to run it. Kyle Shanahan got cocky, and Bill
Yep.
Belichick made him pay for it.
if they ran that football, that Super Bowl was over, and they would be the defending champions right now.
Oh yeah, we'd be talking about a different story. In fact, then you'd be hearing a lot of things. Is Tom Brady going to retire? Is this going to be his revenge tour?
Yep.
No, last year was his revenge tour, and he completed it. Now this is just a gloat tour, possibly, just to stick, especially with Week 1. But Bill, on that note, are you ready for the picks?
Oh man, yes I am. Here we go.
All right, let's go over the ground stuff before we get in, Bill. Bill and I are going to predict each game, maybe not give a score unless we feel like it. We're going to say who wins, and at the end of, or the beginning of, or at next week when we go over the picks again, on the sides of the screen, you're going to see my score, how many games I got right and wrong, and Bill's. It's going to keep going until the end of the year, and then we find out who won. Last year was a tie, but that was because, to be fair, I fucked up on my math last year, and I promise I will try not to make that same mistake again. Because, Bill, we have 16 games, no teams on bye. I am excited. All right, Bill, you give the team who's playing on Thursday. I say who wins, you say who wins, and then it's on to the next one. Let's go, Bill.
It's the defending champions. It's opening night in the NFL, Thursday Night Football on NBC, the Kansas City Chiefs at the New England Patriots with Roger Goodell in attendance in Massachusetts.
Bill, you don't know how much I'm smiling right now. I am so ready for football this year, and I am so ready for the Patriots to sacrifice the Chiefs. The Chiefs are the sacrificial lamb for this year, and Goodell's going to be there to watch a slaughter. The Patriots are motivated. The fans are motivated. When Goodell gets down there to give them the rings, he's going to be shamed. He's going to be mocked. He's going to be laughed. You suspended Brady thinking it would balance the NFL, and it blew up in your face. And it's probably going to blow up in his face again whenever Ezekiel Elliott takes the Cowboys to a Super Bowl in the future. So have fun with that as the Patriots win a dominant game.
I've also got the Patriots. I think this could be the best offense ever assembled, and I think they start to show it in week 1. They're going to pick apart the Chiefs defense, and I think it's going to be a big win for New England on the start to a 16-0 year. All right, so here we go. The Sunday games. The New York Jets at the Buffalo Bills.
This is a term I use from a good a sports channel. I'll recommend it to you guys, or to you, Bill. Urinating Tree. Look him up. He's funny, and he called both the Jets and Bills lol cows. I like that term. These are both lol cows, but the Jets, I think, are going to go 1-15. This isn't the game they're winning. I'm going to go Buffalo.
Yeah, I got Buffalo as well. I legit, New York has a chance at going 0-16.
Oh yeah.
They legit do.
By the way,
Tyrod
Taylor's not even starting this game, and I'm still picking the Bills.
Right. All right. So the next game is the Philadelphia Eagles at the Washington Football Team.
I have the Washington Football Team pulling it out of their asses here. I think this one's going to be a close game, but I think Washington just will somehow pull it off. I don't know how. I don't know.
I also have Washington. I don't believe in the Eagles. I don't think they're going to have as fast of a start this year. I think they're an 8-8 team. I just got Washington, and just a better team than them. Next up, the Oakland Raiders at the Tennessee Titans.
All right, Bill, we have two dynamic teams on the rise, but I'm going to go with Oakland. I think they're going to steal this one in overtime against the Titans.
I also got Oakland. Their offense is really good. Their defense is kind of shaky, but, they still have Khalil Mack. So, I got the Raiders winning. I think it's going to be a close game. Next up, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Miami Dolphins if it stays in Miami.
Yep, this one can be subject to change. I'm going to go with the Buccaneers. They're going to win the Battle of Florida, and it's going to be grand. Like I said, I think this is the breakout fun team to watch this year. I've got faith in Jameis. I've always had since he got drafted.
I also got the Buccaneers. No Ryan Tannehill. That's a loss. And, the Dolphins' defense is vastly overrated. Next up, the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Houston Texans.
This is going to be such an emotional game, and the Jaguars know they're in for a show. And I have the Texans. Even with Tom Savage starting, I think they're going to blow out Jacksonville, and Blake Bortles is going to score half the points for the Texans himself. With pick sixes, fumbles, return for touchdowns, and the like. It's going to be embarrassing.
And I also got the Houston Texans winning big. Like you said, it's going to be an emotional game. The Texans are going to want to win this for the city of Houston. It's too much for
Bill,
Jacksonville.
I really want all three Houston sports teams. It won't happen now that I'm saying it, but I really want all three Houston sports teams to win within the next 2 years, because you could easily call that the Houston Renaissance. When the town got destroyed, the sports teams brought it back up.
Right. Oh man. So next up, the Arizona Cardinals at the Detroit Lions.
I'll be honest, I'm still torn on this one. I feel like it could still go either way, but I'm gonna go with the Detroit Lions because I feel like the Cardinals' defense just got worse. The front seven actually feels weak. It feels like a liability. The secondary I think is still good, but I feel the pass rush is exploitable.
Right. Uh, the other issue is Carson Palmer. Is he going to throw picks? And that for that reason, I've got my Lions. Amir Abdullah's. I have a big game in this game. Next up, the Atlanta Falcons at the Chicago
I may
Bears.
have said that the Falcons are going to go on a slight regression, but I still think they can win easy games like this. I've got the Falcons, no problem.
I got the Falcons. This is going to be a slaughter. I mean, it's going to be bad.
How long does Mike Glennon hold on to that job?
A half.
Ouch, that's
Oh man.
bad.
I he's on lose his job really fast. Next up, the Baltimore Ravens at the Cincinnati Bengals.
Joe Flacco may not even start this game, but even so, I think the Bengals will do just enough to win this game.
And I feel like the Ravens will do just enough to defeat the Bengals in Cincinnati. Really, they lost a few pieces, but the Ravens are still the Ravens, still coached by Harbaugh. I still think they're good enough to beat the Bengals, who, Andy Dalton might throw 3 interceptions in this game.
Oh wow, this is our first divide. This is the first game we have a split decision on.
Yep. Next up, the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Cleveland Browns.
Oh, this one's easy, no question. Pittsburgh. Yeah, I don't even know Martavis Bryant will be back, but I feel like the Steelers should still have a dynamic, overpowered offense that even with Myles Garrett on their side, it won't be enough to contain.
Right. I have Pittsburgh going crazy. Big Ben's just throw touchdown passes all over on this Browns defense. Sorry, Cleveland. Next up, the Indianapolis Colts at the Los Angeles Rams.
Hmm. This one is a toss-up to me, Bill, because on one hand, you would think the Colts should have it, but remember, Indy doesn't have. They don't have Andrew Luck starting for this game. The GM has already gone on record to say that. And Aaron Donald is missing for the Rams. He might not show up either for their defense, and they could use him. But even with all that, I feel the Rams will somehow pull a rabbit out of their ass and win this game. Just because the Colts have no defense. Jared Goff, you have to show some improvement. This is the perfect defense to start upon, to start building up your talent and skills. This is your World 1-1. This is your Green Hill Zone. You need to take advantage and grind off of it.
And this is the game that I was the most torn on. And I agree. I think the Rams will win because Scott Tolzien at quarterback. I'm sorry, he just doesn't inspire a lot of confidence in me.
Yeah, and
And
let's not forget when the Patriots just bamboozled the Colts for Jacoby Brissett to get a good enough late round pick. I like that.
right, I mean, the Colts are in bad shape, and I like the Rams better.
Oh yeah, I love Andrew
Next,
Luck as a person. I think he's a great guy, but you're on the Colts. I can't root for you, man.
next up, the Seattle Seahawks at the Green Bay Packers.
I really want the Seahawks to. I said the Seahawks will be the best team, but this one in Lambeau, I'm gonna go with Green Bay. I feel the Seahawks could pull it out, but I just don't know how the offense will do. It's still, especially when they traded Jermaine Kearse. Sheldon Richardson is going to be a good addition for now, but we'll see.
I got Seattle beating Green Bay just because of my anti Green Bay
I
bias.
really hope you're
I
right.
just
I really hope you're right.
I cannot bring myself to pick the Green Bay Packers. I'm sorry, especially against the Seahawks.
Yep. If this were over
Uh,
there, I would have picked Seattle in a heartbeat, but I just don't know.
Next up, the Carolina Panthers at the San Francisco
Cam
49ers.
Newton may not dab anymore, but he may as well dab all over the 49ers because they are not even close to ready. I've got the Panthers winning no problem against the clown card that is San Fran.
I have the Panthers just running all over the 49ers as well. Easy win. Next up, the New York Giants at the Dallas
Uh,
Cowboys for Sunday Night
this is going to be
Football.
the good one. This is going to be the true test because have been debating at who carried the Cowboys into that good season and into the playoffs. Was it Dak Prescott? Was it Ezekiel Elliott? We're going to find out because as things stand now, it doesn't look like Elliott's going to play week 1. If Prescott can pull a win out of his ass for this one, that should prove that it was he who was responsible or the bigger contributor to the playoff berth. But if they lose this and Prescott looks very uncomfortable, I think it's clear that Ezekiel Elliott was the bigger game-changing talent. With that in mind, I'm going Dallas. I feel like they should split. I've always believed that most of the NFC matchups are always split between the two teams. I'm going again with this one. I'm going with Dallas.
And I've got the Giants. Their offense is good enough to defeat the Cowboys' defense. And I don't know if the Cowboys' offense without Ezekiel Elliott's good enough to take on the Giants' defense. They might be a little bit overrated, the Giants' defense, but, overall, just based off of matchups, I just think the Giants are just the better team. Next up, the Monday night game, part 1 of the doubleheader, is the New Orleans Saints at the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh man, Adrian Peterson already stated he wants to run all over the Vikings, and I think he's going to get what he wishes in a way. I think the Saints are going to pull this one and win a very close matchup against the Vikings.
I also got the Saints winning against the Vikings. I think, Drew Brees is going to start where he left off last year and go crazy. And then the final game of the weekend, the Los Angeles Chargers at the Denver Broncos.
Well, it's going to be aggravating to say, man.
Still San Diego to me.
Yeah. Rip San Diego for everything. Take away everything from them. I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos. I think the defense will do just enough to hold off the Chargers. I mean, everyone thinks the Chargers are the breakout team for the AFC, but I disagree with that. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the Titans. But, yeah, this one's going to be close. I'll give it that. But this is going to be more of a defensive show than offense.
I've got the San Diego Chargers.
San Diego! Hey, Bill, it's L.A.
God damn it. It's always going to be San Diego to me.
I know, but we got to pronounce it right.
It's Los Angeles. The Los Angeles Chargers I think, have a better offense. Their defense is not better than Denver's defense, but, Denver's offense, I still don't trust Trevor Siemian to score more points than Phillip Rivers.
Yeah. Well, that's why you got to hope Von Miller does it for him. But anyway, before we go, let's cover the first Thursday night football game, in case we're not around for it.
Yeah, let's get that ready. Hold on. Let's do that. It is the Houston Texans at the Cincinnati Bengals.
These two teams drew the short straw, but on the bright side, you get it out of the way and you never have to worry about it again. But I'm going to go with the Texans. As you know, Bill, I am not going to forget about Joe Mixon and what he did to that girl, to his girlfriend. I want the Texans, I want J.J. Watt to just run him into the ground and make him taste dirt as the Texans trounce the Bengals. No T.J. Yates required for the Bengal killing. And I have the Texans winning a good matchup.
I also got the Texans winning. The Bengals are just they're not what they used to be.
Their offensive line is also trash. I wouldn't be surprised if Andy Dalton loses his head by week 5. It's going to be bad.
Right.
All right, now, Bill, that's going to do it for week 1. Do you have anything else you'd like to add before we go?
I think we're good.
All right, football's upon us. I cannot wait for week 1. Every off season feels like a millennia for me, but I think you and I are excited for our teams to hopefully do great.
Oh, yeah.
We'll find out. We'll see you guys next week for week 2. It's good to be back.